Capital Views is sponsored by Northrim Bank, Alaska Oil and Gas Association, ConocoPhillips, and Linden.
Hi, I'm Tim Bradner with Alaska Legislative Digest, and thanks for joining us in Capitol Views. And a special thanks today to Representative Rebecca Schwanke of District 36, newly elected to the House this year, and you're from Glennallen, as I understand.
I am. Yes. Happy to be here.
Well, maybe we could start by you could just describe the district. It's an interesting district, covers a wide area. And then I'd like, we could just talk about your background and your thoughts about what your priorities might be. So, what's in District 36 these days? I know it changes.
You hit the nail on the head. District 36 is extremely broad. We range all the way from south of me down in the McCarthy and Chittenden area, all the way north through the Copper River Valley, up through Tok, the Tanana, Eagle, all the way up to Arctic Village and Venati, down the Yukon. We're all the way down to the Gash villages. And everything in between. Out of Fairbanks, our district is just the north edge of Fairbanks. So we go in an arc from Nenana up around Goldstream, down through Delta and Tok. So there's a little donut hole in Fairbanks where other representatives are focused.
Just the expanse of that is just amazing. Do you have any sense of how many square miles? That's got to be the size of states in the
I don't have a good stat off the top of my head for you, but we are the largest House district, and yeah, the entire like Tanana Chiefs Conference region, we are almost their entire region. So it's a huge swath of interior Alaska.
Now, when you were campaigning, were you able to get, yeah, obviously you have to fly quite a bit. Were you able to get around a lot?
I spent a lot of time on the road system. I'll be honest, at the beginning, I had no idea if I was going to be able to raise any money. So, I did what I could getting in the vehicle, and I spent a lot of time on the road between Glennallen, Tok, Delta, Goldstream, and Nenana. And I did a lot of road miles. I was able to fly out to McGrath and talk to several individuals along both the Kuskokwim and the Yukon River, but I didn't have an opportunity to fly out to too many districts. That I'm hoping to do this summer.
Yeah, it's always interesting to fly out. You get a sense of what Alaska's like and how different it is when you do that and you campaign in in a number of widespread communities. Rebecca, tell us about yourself, your background. How long have you lived in Glen Allen?
So I've been in the Copper River area for about 22 years. My husband and I are both I'm a wildlife biologist. He's a fisheries biologist. Both worked for the Department of Fish and Game there. Um, our background really is just kind of. I was born in Fairbanks, grew up in Tok. Rural Alaska is really where I call home and want to stay. So I've I've been very lucky over the years. My early career with the department, when I was going to college at UAF, I was able to travel across the state as a technician and a student intern many years ago. So I spent a lot of time out on the Yukon and the Kuskokwim and some of the different. I spent a lot of time in the different villages. Right towards the end, I was able to work on a grizzly project out of Prudhoe Bay. So I've spent quite a bit of time in over my life traveling around the state. So I'm quite familiar with the district and a lot of the small villages and communities. So I feel like I have a fairly good handle on what the needs are across the district. So
Well, it's interesting you went to UAF. UAF is well known for its wildlife programs, and I just hope that can be sustained. It's one of the bright stars for the state.
yeah, I did actually learn recently. So I have an undergrad in natural resources management with the forestry option, and I learned that the forestry program does not exist there any longer. So that was a little bit unnerving to me. So I really hope that we as a state can refocus on development opportunities. We need more economic development in this state. We need to put more people back to work, and I really feel it'll alleviate an awful lot of the stress that we feel across the state right now.
You mentioned forest. I know that the Commissioner of Natural Resources and the governor have been very interested in getting forestry going again. We used to have a very vibrant timber industry, mainly in the southeast, but the Tanana Valley State Forest is a big focus. Any thoughts on forestry and what we can do to help grow that small industry?
Um, yeah, it's the marketability of interior timber is fairly limited, but there's been an awful lot of different producers and small businesses that have started up and tried to find really niche opportunities. I like the concept that's being floated of some longer timber leases, really to find that long-term commitment. Really to forest management, long-term forest management opportunities. I think that that will improve interior timber industry opportunities. One of the things that we've noticed in Southeast over the years as industry was pulled back and opportunities were taken away from some of the federal lands, um, they were replaced, some of the financial opportunities were replaced with federal grants. One of the big education grants that we just lost last year, actually, under the Biden administration, was the Rural Secure Schools grant, and it had a lot to do with replacing revenue that was lost when the timber industry was pulled away from Southeast. And it's one example of many where Alaskans have really come to rely on federal funds, where I think we would much rather be able to develop our resources and receive revenues from those resources. So I'm hopeful that we can move back in that direction here over the next several years and reduce our reliance on federal support. But industry in general, a lot of it has to do with the land being locked up in federal oversight.
Well, there's a lot to talk about on those topics, and I think we're going to see some changes coming in that area in the next few years. Um, Rebecca, I have to ask you, this is with your wildlife background, I can't resist asking about those buffalo up around Delta, and some of them come down to Glenallen, I know. Are they still there, or what are they doing?
Right? Well, it's very interesting. So bison were put in the Delta area back in 1920. So we've got about 100-year history with bison in the interior. Bison were taken out of Delta, a handful of them, and brought down to the Copper River and Chitna River area back in the 50s. And so we do have two small herds in the Copper River region, the Copper River bison herd as well as the Chitna River bison herd. All three of those herds took a major hit during the really deep snow that we had a few years back. We had two really bad deep snow winters, icing events. Bison numbers really dropped significantly across those three herds. Obviously, the Delta herd was in the news a lot because a lot of the animals ended up on the highway system or in people's fields and on the back roads, and they were really evident. It was really evident to the community members that bison were in trouble. And so I know that it was a real hot topic for a while, and there were a lot of really, I think, unfortunate decisions that were made eh, during that time period. Um, and the good news is that this last year has been a very below average snowfall year, and it's been very good for wildlife across all of interior and south central. Um, Bison aren't the only species that needed a reprieve. Nalchina caribou, 40-mile caribou, moose across the interior, they all needed a reprieve from that deep snow, um, late spring events. So I'm very hopeful that some of the wildlife populations are turning a corner here, and we're going to start to see some increases soon.
Well, it's good to have some good news. We need more of that.
Yeah,
At any rate, thanks for joining us. It's been interesting, and hope to continue the conversation.
yeah, anytime. Thank you, Tim.
Yeah, thank you for joining us.
Yeah.
Hi, this is Tim Bradner with Alaska Legislative Digest. Thanks for joining us with Capital Views, and thank you, Representative Schwanke.